all ZCX configuration files are written in a format called YAML. Before we can get started reading and editing ZCX configurations, we'll need to learn the basics of YAML. At first, YAML may seem overwhelming, but after going through this tutorial and seeing some concrete examples in the next lesson, hopefully you'll find that it's not too hard. If you're already familiar with YAML, feel free to skip this video. So what is YAML, and why does ZCX use YAML instead of simple .text files like ClyphX Pro? Put simply, YAML is a format for storing arbitrary data in a way that's easy for both humans and computers to understand. Compared to native ClyphX Pro configurations, ZCX configurations can be far more complex and open-ended. So while the simplicity of the ClyphX Pro method is great, it just isn't going to cut it for ZCX. So let's see what YAML is all about. The most important concept in YAML is the key-value pair. All of the YAML data you're going to look at is going to look something like this. So what does this mean? Well, you've got a key on the left and a value on the right with a colon in between them. And the way that we can think about this, we can say this value on the right, this is the data. This is some information that we want to record. And the key is like a label for the data. So to put it more concretely, we can talk about me, and I'll say favorite color, and I'll say my favorite color is purple. So here, purple is the information or the value, and then favorite color is the key. It's the label for the data. So that's the most important concept in YAML. So now we're going to look at this in more detail. And our subject for this part is going to be my cat, Milo. Here he is. So let's start recording some details about Milo the cat. Maybe the most obvious detail about Milo is his color, which is orange. Next, we've got, let's say, legs 4. That's easy. Cute. Well, that's true. And I'll pause here for a moment to speak about data types in YAML. So YAML can record many different types of data, but in ZCX we're only going to need a few of those types. And we can tell that they're different types of data because of this color coding you see here. Right, so you've got different colors for the different values that are here. And it's not just orange because the color is orange. It's orange because it's a string. So when we have some type of textual data in YAML, with letters, we call that a string. Then here we've got a number. You know about numbers already, I hope. And then we've got true in a different color as well. And I could also say false, and it would be that same color. So when we've got a true or a false in YAML, we call that a Boolean value. Okay. Let's talk about more complex data, and we'll talk about what Milo likes. Like, what is he into? So here I'll type likes, and he likes a few different things. So we'll need a different way to represent this type of data. So YAML has something called a list, which is perfect for this type of data. So one way to write a list is inside of square brackets. So I'll hit this bracket key, which will give me an opening and closing bracket. And now I can just write a comma-separated list of the things he likes. So he likes food, he likes meowing, and also scratching and sleeping. Now there's also a different way to write lists, which I'll show you. Usually this comes down to personal preference. So I could do it like this, with a dash on each line. So that's exactly the same as writing it the previous way. So it's usually just preference, but you'll see in some situations one format makes more sense than the other. So moving on, let's talk about what Milo dislikes. And he's actually a pretty happy guy. So we're going to say that his dislikes are null. And this null is a special value. It basically means the absence of a value. Okay, so when you've got a collection in YAML of these key value pairs, all of this is what we call an object. So an object is kind of like a group of related data. So an object has key value pairs. Now, when you've got a document like this with key value pairs right at the kind of root level, that is itself an object. But we can make it even more explicit. So I'm just going to select all this data and indent it by hitting Tab. So I'm going to give this a label. So we're saying that all of these key value pairs belong to Milo. So here Milo is the key and the value is all of this. So we can take it further and let's talk about Milo's friends, some other cats. So I'll make another key here, friends, and this is going to be a list. And we're going to use the same syntax that we did over here. So the first item in the list, the name of this friend is Elsie. Their friendship level is 10, and years known 3. And we could be more specific. We could say like 3.4 if we wanted to. And now I'm going to add another item to this list. So like before, how we're starting each item of the list on a new line with a dash, we're going to do this here too. And I'm going to put a space here for readability. I could even do it up here too, but it's not as useful. So next friend, and the name is George. Friendship level, not so good. It's only at a 4, but the years known is only 2. So here we've got a list, but each item in the list is an object. So we've got a list of objects. And just to reinforce this concept, I'll show you how we can go even deeper. So inside this friend object for Elsie, we can talk about Elsie's toys, and that's also going to be a list. So she's got her mouse toy, her wavy stick toy, and her noisy toy. Okay, so this is a list, which is inside of an object, which is inside of another list, and this friends list is part of an object, and we're calling that object Milo. Okay, the last thing we'll look at for this example is this idea of comments. So in YAML, you've got something called a comment, and that's basically a way of leaving a note for yourself inside your YAML file. But ZCX isn't going to evaluate this data, so you can put whatever you want here. So to leave a comment, you start with the hash symbol, and then I could just type whatever I want after the hash symbol. And we can also comment entire lines. So maybe for whatever reason, I want to get rid of this line for now, and just come in here and add a hash symbol before the entire line. And it's almost like that this line is no longer part of the file, but it is still there. So later on, I can come back and get rid of this comment, and then my data is right as I left it. You'll find this really helpful when you're troubleshooting. So we're going to leave this lesson with one more example. And this is the type of data you'll see in ZCX. This snippet actually comes from one of the demo configuration files, like the one you installed in your last lesson. Now, I don't want you to worry about what any of this stuff actually means, but I do want you to think about the data structures we're using and how that's being represented in YAML. So all of this is an object, and this object is called device. So device is the key or label, and then we've got this indentation here, and indentation is the proper term for this little gap at the left. And so all of this is the value of this object, and we'll break down each key value pair. So we've got type, which is the key, mode, which is the value, then mode is a key, then device is the value, and it's all the same as before, right? So we've got keys on the left and values on the right. Now this one's a little bit trickier. So we've got this entry here, and the key is gestures. Gestures is yet another object, and of course this gestures object has its own key value pairs. So here, press is a key, and then the value is all of this. I say all of this, but it's actually just one thing, which is a key of mode on with a value of device. And in fact, to make it more interesting, I'll add another entry here. Again, don't worry about what this means yet. We're going to get to all this in the next lesson. But just to make it clearer that this is another object with 2 key value pairs. And again, we've got another object. And even though there's only 1 key value pair inside, we can tell because of this indentation, because this mode offline is more to the right of the line above it, we can tell that this is another object. Okay, that's the end of this lesson. Well done. I hope it wasn't too boring. Obviously, it was very dry. But in the next lesson, we're finally going to be getting to the good stuff.